We're going to bring up your next speaker. That's going to be the wonderful, magnificent Chris James.
If you talk about how much you hate your fat, your body has been working all this time to keep you alive.
I don't think anybody in my circle understands impossible.
Yeah, what's going on, family? How are y'all feeling today? I see the chat is already lit up like a Christmas tree. I guess the trend today is to throw how much you've lost in what time frame since you've been in AHA. So for anybody else watching, if you guys want to put in how much weight have you lost, and then give us a time frame so that we can shout you out. But here's the first one that popped up. Let's go 80 pounds down in 2 years. That's incredible.
That's awesome.
You know, it's I can't remember what, I think I was on a live stream or I was doing a consultation. I don't even remember, man. I told you, like, so much stuff kind of runs over, but somebody was talking about their weight loss and, you know, how much they wanted to lose. And I was telling them, like, I think they should, based on their statistics, they should lose. They had 200 pounds or so, I believe. And I was like, yeah, just take about 2 years.
Yeah.
Take 2 years and knock it out. It's okay to do the slow roll on the weight loss. A lot of people think you got to do it fast, but I think doing it slow is better.
Well, yeah, I mean, it really comes down to knowing yourself and what you're going to be able to sustain, right? Like, I always hear these different people, they'll talk about these outlier cases where the doctor tells them, hey, if you don't lose weight in the next 2 months, like, you could have a heart attack. And by all means, like, if that's fuel for the fire and it motivates you to lose the weight quickly and you can do it, then do it. But yeah, like you said, there's nothing wrong with knowing what pace is going to work for you, because in the end, like, you're going to get to the end goal. That's what matters.
Yeah. So starting today is the most important part, you know, making a decision that you're going to start moving in that direction. And then, like you said, if there's like an immediate threat, sure, you know, if you're 400 pounds and you're roughly, you know, 230, 240 pounds overweight or whatever the case may be, you want to get out of that danger zone quickly. But even with that, I still think, hey, drop, you know, 40 pounds, 50 pounds, get yourself out of that immediate danger. And then I still think it's a good idea to kind of slow it down.
Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah, and losing, you know, just 40 pounds in the next year is going to do wonders for how you feel and for your motivation. Like, you're not going to stop. You're going to want to keep going. So, yeah, I agree with you 100%. Just get started. You know, Matthew Griffin, 180 pounds in 10 and a half months. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's impressive.
Matthew has been a treasure for our community. You know, like, he's been sharing his journey and just been a huge motivation. He came to our event and, you know what I mean, had everybody playing cards. I don't know what they was playing, but, you know, it's just incredible to see these stories. But the thing about Matthew that really, I think, sets him apart is his consistency.
Yeah.
You know, so the 180 pounds, that's incredible, but it's his like, whenever I do a live stream, Matt's on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's awesome.
So take a page out of his book.
Spoons. I haven't played spoons in forever. I'm terrible at spoons too. Like, any of those like super fast games like Dutch Blitz, I'm horrible at those games. I avoid them because I get distracted by everything going on. Stresses me out.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what spoons is. I left them to play spoons.
Yeah.
Spades is the only game I know how to play.
Yeah, dude, we got to play spades sometimes. That's my jam.
Yeah, okay. So 72 pounds down so far in a year, 25 pounds to go to 120.
Nice.
Excellent. This is what I like to see, man. I think that one of the things that people often aren't able to do when they talk about this type of information, like whether it's fasting or even finance, they're not often able to show testimonials. Like, they'll do like one testimonial. It'll be like that one outstanding student, and then that's like it.
Yep.
I don't think we have we're not lacking on testimonials, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
I was checking out your one page yesterday about your challenge that's coming up, and I saw all the different testimonials that are listed on there, and it's great to see all of that. And I think I was telling you before we got on here too, before we went live, the video where I interviewed you for my channel, all of the people, all of the comments on there, like first and foremost, y'all are awesome. Your community is so, so supportive and amazing. But I can't tell you the number of comments, people coming on and be like, Chris, all of your videos, I've followed his videos, I've lost all this weight. And it's just like natural testimonials. They just
Mm.
follow your lead.
Yeah, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come over to that video and I'm gonna start extracting those testimonials so we
Yeah.
can.
Yeah, you should. Yeah. Screenshot them. They're there.
Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to shout out to Sheila. By the way, Justin, so before we got on, I was telling you about somebody who graciously paid for another community member's tuition. This is Sheila. She did that. So
Yeah, that's really
uh,
awesome.
down 25 pounds since October. That's incredible. What's crazy? I think because people see this amazing weight loss with fasting, sometimes they get discouraged because maybe they're not seeing that same amount of weight. But Justin, in your experience, let's forget about fasting and let's forget about any of the maybe um, mastery that you have of weight loss. Let's throw that out the window for the moment. Let's go back to like traditional weight loss methods and calories in, calories out, just all that traditional stuff. What would be a reasonable amount of weight to lose either per week or per month? What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, what I'd say from everything that I was taught back in the day and what the experts say is anywhere between half a pound to 2 pounds per week, but typically they'll advise you to stick around that half a pound to 1 pound per week because that's sustainable, right?
Mm,
And I understand the argument for that because, like I said, it goes back to what I mentioned at the very beginning, like know yourself. Some people like slow and steady, and it's easier to kind of stack up those small habits over time. But what I always say is just because that's the go-to recommendation doesn't mean it's the right recommendation for everyone, right?
mm,
What you and I and all of these wonderful people have found is that you don't have to adhere to the slow and steady. You certainly can, but it's not absolutely necessary, if that
mm.
makes sense.
Yeah. So basically, what I want people to get from this is, reframe. When you're using fasting as a weight loss technique, it's gonna blow every other technique out of the water. I mean, one to point 0.5, half a pound to 2 pounds a week on fasting is absolute light work. I mean, it would be hard to fast for more than a day and lose 2 pounds. I mean, you're probably going to lose, depending on where you guys are in your journey, that one day you're probably going to lose 2 to 3 pounds,
Yeah.
especially if you're at the very beginning.
Yeah.
So you know reframe that, man, because I people get discouraged and I'm like, look, even if you're losing the traditional 2 pounds a week, for a lot of people that's a very challenging task, and
Mhm.
you're doing it utilizing fasting. So I mean, be proud of yourself for that.
Well, yeah, something should be said too, like, obviously, there's gonna be individual variations, right? I just spoke with somebody, last week, his name was Jerome. He's got a channel called Finally Fasting, and he's lost weight really, really quickly, but what he's noticed is he's getting within, I think, probably as we're live today, he's probably at his goal weight today, but once he got within 10 to 15 pounds of his goal weight, he wasn't losing it as quickly as he was in the beginning, which is just like you said, like if you've got a good amount of weight to lose in the beginning, it's going to drop pretty quickly. Your body doesn't want to be holding on to that. So if you're fasting, it's going to come off quickly. But as you get closer to your goal weight, it does, like you could fast, like Jerome, for example, he would fast for 4 days and only see the scale drop half a pound. And I'd be like,
Hmm.
man, that's where that consistency, like Matthew's got, comes in, because that's got to be discouraging, right? Like, you don't eat for 4.5 days, you see the scale drop just half a pound, you're like, man, what am I even doing? But yeah, you just got
Yeah.
to stick with it.
That's a good point. And so what I like to do is I like to reframe that those moments in time when we're not losing a lot of weight. 4 days fasting, not only just 4 days fasting. Jerome, he's at the end of his journey, which means he's been fasting for X amount of months or years.
Yep.
And so to not be able to lose weight like you traditionally see, the way I like to reframe it is when the body is not losing a ton of weight. First of all, you probably don't have a lot to lose at that time, or if you still do have a lot to lose, then it could just be simply that the body is shaping and forming and toning. And that's why we talk about the shrink week as much as we can. When you'll see moments in time, especially if you do like straight fasting, fast for 2 weeks from from week 3 to week 4, you're probably not going to lose any weight.
Yeah.
So your average weight loss drops, and then but you see the inches come off.
Yeah.
So always be checking your inches as well as your weight. Like, don't just depend on the scale, because it only gives you a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
And by the way, Justin, how do you get Jerome on the show? Because I had my team reach out to him. I don't think he responded.
Oh, I'll shoot him. Remind me after this live, shoot me a text and I'll message him. Jerome, if you see this, I apologize. I'm putting you on blast, but you said it yourself. He's not great at responding to emails. And the best way to get in touch with him is actually on Instagram. But I'll shoot him a message if you remind me, because we were joking right before we went live. Like, I got to put reminders in my phone for everything. Shoot me a
Gotcha.
text. I'll reach out to him and be like, hey, you got to get on Chris's show.
Yeah, man. Shoot, it's crazy because I've been watching him for a little bit. I haven't been watching his whole journey, but I guess his content recently started popping up.
Mm-hmm.
And then to see basically what you were saying is he's pretty much getting to that point of completion, or where he feels like he's settling. And I was like, okay, because I was like, maybe he wanted to wait. I'm justifying why he didn't respond. I'm like, maybe he wanted to wait.
Nah, he's got, a lot of stuff going on, like full-time job and everything. So probably it just got lost in the email pile.
Gotcha.
But yeah,
Gotcha.
he's a really cool guy. He's super nice, and I really love what he's doing too. Very similar to you. He's just got a heart to help people share what he's learned and what he's doing. But it's interesting too, like, he's lost the weight before, but he didn't stick with the maintenance period for long enough. And, then of course, like, the guilt and the shame when he started regaining some weight. So he took like a couple years off, but now he's back on it, lost the weight real quickly. And that's what I'm really excited to see too now, is him start documenting how he sustains the weight loss, because he's going to have to, he doesn't have to, but he will start scaling back from those longer fasts. And it's going to be a different journey. Once you've lost all the weight, you don't want to continue doing those longer fasts, because in theory, you just keep losing weight beyond what you need to.
Yeah. In theory, it's an interesting thing. So I pushed the limits of fasting at the very beginning. Like, this was probably year 2, maybe, of me actually fasting on a regular basis. I was still in like a more of a deep healing mode. And I also was in a very deep experimental mode, which we've talked about,
Yeah.
before. I don't know if I told you this, but I did a dry fast, and my goal was to do, I think I did 6 days. I don't remember what my actual goal was. It might have actually been 6 days,
You did
but
6 days of a dry fast?
I did 6 days of dry.
Wow.
Now, the crazy thing about it is when I did the dry fasting, I was already very low. I was already at the borderline of being underweight.
Yeah.
And the reason I did it was because I wanted there's people that are out there that are very slim. They might be considered right at the borderline of being underweight, but they have issues that they want to be able to benefit from fasting with. And at the time, everybody was saying, if you're underweight or if you're at that borderline, you can't fast.
Right.
And I'm not the type of person to just take somebody's word for things. I always push the limits. So I'm like, well, I'm there now. Let me fast for my community and see what it's like. Not water fast, but dry fast. So I lost 20 pounds in 4 days. So I was already underweight. I think I started off at 175 pounds. And for reference, I'm 6'6".
Yeah.
So I was already super thin.
Yeah, that's real thin.
And then I lost 20 pounds in 4 days.
Yeah, you got
So
down to close to my weight, man. And
it
I'm a
was
foot
crazy.
shorter than you.
It was crazy. But the thing that was interesting about it, I did not feel ill. I didn't feel some type of extreme weakness. Oh, I was thin. I mean, I looked like a leaf blowing in the wind,
Yeah.
but my energy levels were fine. And honestly, I didn't look as bad as I thought I would. So I ended up getting down to like 145 pounds. And I never showed anybody these pictures or talked about it because people are very judgmental. And I didn't want to put an image of fasting out there like this is how you're going to look if you fast.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I haven't put that content
Yeah,
out,
real
but
skinny. This is what you look like after you fast, yeah. If you
yeah,
start at 10% body fat, yes.
exactly. But hey, if you're underweight and you still want to use the benefit of fasting, I think that I've learned some ways to do it. You know, whether you want to add honey to your fast or if you just want to choose like juice fasting instead of dry fasting, you could still get those benefits.
Yeah. Do you see that last comment there by U-Haul? The AHA just came out with a study that 8 hours of fasting leads to more heart attacks. I saw that study 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And I don't know what your opinion is on it, but the research that I've done on it already, because I was like, oh gosh, here's some more, propaganda that they're trying to steer us away from fasting.
Hmm.
The study that was done, so it was announced at a cardiologist convention, and it was a very small study. First and foremost, there were only a few subjects, and it was wait, sorry, no, I'm mixing it up with something else. It was a self-reported study. It was based on 2 days of data. It was based on 2 days of reporting data that they then extended across several years as if those people did it consistently those 2
Gotcha.
days for the rest of their lives. But
Right.
it hasn't been published in a peer-reviewed journal just yet. And if you look it up, I think where I saw it was like Eating Well or something is the report that I read on it. And then essentially most of the people, even at that convention, said that it was way too soon to draw any conclusions from
Hmm.
that study. But yeah, that's one of those studies that I read and I'm like, oh gosh, it gets me fired up, man.
Yeah.
It
Well,
does.
I think, listen, it's actually a good thing because like you said, it gets you fired up. I saw Jason Fung had responded to it.
Oh, did
There's
he?
several, yeah, yeah. I think he responded with an article. He probably did a video too. I have not had an opportunity to actually look into it. I heard about it maybe last week or whatever, whenever it came out, but I just didn't have a chance to really respond or look at it because I've just been so busy. But it is something that I know people are pushing. They want me to kind of respond to, but y'all already know what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been fasting for what, 7 years?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I regularly do OMAD. So that's very similar to was it intermittent fasting they
Yeah, it was
said?
16 and 8. So the people that they measured again from 2 days worth of, self-reported data was that they skipped breakfast, which just like you, I've been doing that for 7 to 8 years. Like,
Mhm.
I can't tell you. I probably count on both hands how many times I eat breakfast in a year,
Yeah.
and my heart's fine.
It's my heart actually is stronger than it's ever been.
Yeah.
When I was eating breakfast and I wasn't fasting at all, that's when I had the irregular heartbeat, and that's when my intuition was telling me you're going to have heart problems later on. So that was what pushed me to start fasting. And I do like to mention to people, like, if you're dealing with some type of heart issue, some type of palpitation or something weird like that, when you fast, you may experience more of that, like that the heart kind of like trying to regulate itself. That's very common. I see it with people, even if you don't have heart palpitations or something. When you fast, sometimes that's a symptom of fasting, but through the process of being consistent, it goes away, and you find that I don't have any weirdness with my heart at all
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Going back to when you did the 6-day dry fast, did you notice? Because this is a question that came up, in the comments of, the video on my channel, and I get this one all the time. I was talking about it with, Pastor Shane Idleman the other day as well. Did you notice that you lost significant muscle mass during that time? I mean, you were pretty thin, man, to get down to close to my weight. That's crazy, but did you lose a lot of muscle mass?
Um, perceived muscle mass. Dry fasting is an inflammation buster.
Yeah.
It's interesting because at that time, I want to say that I was like exercising fairly regularly, just doing push-ups and curls
Mhm.
and stuff like that. What I noticed was what I would perceive as muscle mass did decrease, but my strength was there.
Yeah. So,
So,
yeah, that's interesting. That would tell me that you probably didn't lose muscle itself. You probably just lost all the glycogen stores in the water that your muscles were retaining because you were dry fasting.
mhm,
If the
yeah,
strength didn't decrease, right?
no. As a matter of fact, the strength, my muscles had a resiliency to them. So how like when you start working out and you start maxing out on curls and all this stuff, and it's cool, it's fun, and then you take like a month or two off the
Oh,
gym,
yeah.
and you just lose all that
Oh, yeah.
progress. I when I stopped exercising, because I would be months out and I'm still curling what I was curling before. So it was like the muscle memory lasted way longer. It was interesting.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, you mentioned, taking a month off and your strength's gone. So, when I came on your channel, when you interviewed me, I was, like, a week out of getting out of the hospital, so I had 2
Mhm.
surgeries back to back, and my wife and I, we had just gotten back from traveling for the last year, so I hadn't even stepped foot in a gym for a year. And I
Mm.
had it in my head. I since like literally a week after I went back to the gym, and I had it in my head like, "Ah, this will be easy. I've done this before." And oh man, it was rough. I was so weak. I'm so used to like for years, like I could do, 5 sets of 10 exercises, 6 to 10 repetitions. And I was fatiguing and giving out and failing at like 4 reps on the 3rd set of everything. It was
Mm.
rough, but it's a
Yeah.
good experience, like we've
Yeah.
talked about before, testing different things out. So I'll be releasing that video probably in about 3 weeks. What it's like to take a whole year off of lifting weights and then get back to it. It was rough.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, it gives you an opportunity to play around, learn the body a little bit more. My brother John, so he was fasting and exercising, and he's probably more like you. He's really into fitness. He became a fitness trainer and stuff like that. So, but he had never fasted and really like tried to build muscle.
Yeah.
That's not really a thing people talk about or really do. And so he was doing 5-day fasting. Actually, funny enough, he was doing the 5-2, which is what we
Nice.
are doing with our program, our challenge, starting Sunday, by the way.
Mhm.
Link will be in the chat. But he was doing the 5-2, and he was drinking juice as a supplement. So if he just felt weak or whatever, he'd do a little juice. He'd do like orange juice. And his muscle growth, his actual strength growth was off the charts.
Yeah,
I mean, at the time, he was curling 50-pound dumbbells.
that's crazy.
And my brother, he was probably like, he might have been like 185 or something like that. He's about 6'1", 6'2". So he wasn't like a huge guy,
Mhm.
you know. And so the bodybuilders and stuff would come up to him at the gym and be like, "Bro, how are you curling those?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and then we also noticed, like from measuring his bicep, his bicep, they weren't huge like in resting mode, but then when he would tense them, they
Yeah.
would grow like crazy.
Yeah.
So
That's interesting.
yeah.
Because it kind of flies in the face of, and I've read different things too, like when it comes to building muscle, how much protein should you shoot for like on a daily basis, because you can't build muscle without protein. But and I don't quote me on this, but I swear in the last year I came across somebody saying something, if it was like Peter Attia or Huberman even might have been the one saying it's like new research is coming out showing that like the body doesn't need nearly as much protein as the standard recommendations, which is like 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight.
Hmm. I mean, look, I have a very simple outlook. I know that we research similarly, and we also kind of have our own little avenues. When I was looking at like protein, I'm looking at babies because I'm thinking as a human being, when is the most explosive growth that we actually see? And we're talking infants from 0 to
Yeah.
adolescence or even those teenage years, whatever that time frame is. Or just if you just take an infant to maturity, that is the most explosive growth you'll ever see in that time frame. So that would be the time when you need the most protein. And it's like these babies are drinking, especially infants, are drinking breast milk.
Yeah.
Like they're not eating all of this flesh and
Protein powders.
protein powders and all this
My
stuff.
protein bars.
Yeah. So I just intuitively, I'm like the way that they talk about protein can't be right. Now, of course, I'm researching the different industries, right? People, the businesses and the companies looking to make money.
Yeah.
And then I'm learning about propaganda, how that works. And I'm thinking this recommendation from protein may come from research that's propped up by a company that's looking to make a profit.
Yep.
Like,
For sure.
yeah.
That's where that whole idea of you have to eat protein within an hour of your workout, otherwise your workout's toast. Like who's going to bring a piece of chicken to the gym with them? No, you got to get your blender bottle and put some protein powder in it and drink that on
Right.
your way home from the gym. It's like, nah, it's
Right.
nonsense.
It's nonsense. I think we have enough science that we can actually give people good information and still make a profit. Like, okay, I think last time we might have talked about this as far as teaching fasting or teaching natural home remedies, just being a YouTuber and helping people out. It's like, do I make buku money? No.
Yeah.
Do I make fu money? No. But I make a living and I'm
Yeah.
able to provide for the coaches and stuff like that. And we help people. And even with our challenge, the challenge to register is $71.
Yep.
Like you don't have to gouge people to make enough for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's like it's just greed.
Yeah, it is.
It's just greed.
Well, and how many more people are you helping? I mean, $71, that's the cost of a gym membership for 1 month, and they're getting all of this group coaching, right? They're getting coaching plus group accountability. I can't tell you, probably like 95% of the people that I talk to that I've ended up coaching in the past, they knew what they should do, what they wanted to do. They just
Mhm.
had trouble sticking with it, and what they needed was accountability. And that's why I think this challenge you're doing is like the perfect venue for it, because you're going to get the accountability plus the coaching. You're going to learn a ton, I know. So yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah. That's it. Okay, so I wanted to, for those who don't know who you are, I did want to kind of like reintroduce you. Obviously, I'm going to tell you guys to go and watch the interview Justin and I did. Maybe like 3-4 weeks ago now. I don't even know.
Yeah,
It's
probably a
been
month ago.
it's not been that long, but it seemed like a lot of time has passed. Justin, give us a little bit of backstory, just kind of like an overview of like what your overall experience has been with health and wellness,
Yeah.
and then also like what it is that you currently do, and you have a YouTube channel. Just kind of give us an overview.
Yeah, so for anyone who didn't see the longer interview with the two of us, what I talked about in there was essentially the entirety of my 20s. I was addicted to first pain medication, then literally any substance you can think of. I was a drug addict. And during that time, I did not take care of my health whatsoever. So the last treatment facility that I went to, when I was admitted to it, I was 185 pounds. And so if you didn't catch it before, I'm 5'6", so 185 pounds. If you look at, the standard BMI charts, it was morbidly obese for my height. And as I was getting sober in this long-term treatment program, I quickly noticed that I was switching addictions, right? Like now I was already addicted to sugar. I thought that I was hypoglycemic because if I didn't eat something, every couple of hours, I would get real shaky. I would get really, really hungry. Looking back at it now, and I was talking to Pastor Shane about this as well. I don't think I was actually hypoglycemic. I think I was just like really addicted to unhealthy food. But anyway, so I noticed I was switching over to food addiction. And obviously, I was very unhealthy and overweight, and I wanted to regain control over. This sounds dumb, but it was my experience. I wanted to regain control over my life because I'd spent 10 to 12 years addicted to drugs and out of control. And what I did in the beginning was I followed, the standard advice because that's what I knew at the time. If I wanted to lose weight, I needed to eat smaller portions, I needed to eat less, and I needed to move more. And I lasted 3 to 3.5 weeks doing that before I was starving all of the time. And what it did was it actually made me think I had a binge eating disorder because I'd be thinking about food all of the time. And I would willpower my way through it. And then I would binge eat everything in sight. And I was like, this is not going to work for me long term. And it was soon after then that I was in a Christian-based treatment program. So I was reading my Bible every day, and I kept coming across these passages where Jesus was saying, "When you fast," and after a couple of days, it just got into my head. It's like, oh wait, he's saying when you fast, not when you used to fast or if you fast. It's just assumed that you're going to fast and you're going to do it in this present time. And that's what I did. I was like, well, maybe this will take care of the calorie deficit. I didn't know what I would experience in terms of the food cravings and the kind of the binging that I was doing at the time, but I just kind of trusted the process and I eased my way into it. And I started out by just skipping breakfast the first day, found out that was way easier than I thought it was going to be. So then the next day I skipped breakfast and lunch and just ate dinner. And I felt really, really good. And then, like you, I just started testing the limits of it. And we talked about this in greater depth too, but I didn't have any system. I didn't have any plan or process that I was following because I didn't even have access to the internet at the time. I don't even think I'd ever watched YouTube up until this time, but I couldn't have even in this program if I'd wanted to. So I literally would just fast for as long as I could, right? Until I would cave in and I would eat a meal. And then this is terrible, but it's true. I would beat myself up like, oh, I could have gone longer. So then after that meal, I would start fasting again. So it was kind of doing rolling fasts, but they weren't a set time period. Like I would go 3 days and then eat, and then I'd go 5 days and eat, and then I go 9 days and eat. It's very similar, I think, to that snake diet guy that you and I have talked about before, where it's like, just go, for a certain period of time, eat a meal, then go for a certain period of time too. And that's how I was able to drop the weight really, really quickly. But going back to what we were talking about before at the very beginning about slow and steady versus rapid weight loss, like in my mind, as long as you're consistent, it's going to take about the same amount of time before you get to a place where it is just your new normal and your new lifestyle. So I lost the weight in, 2.5 months, but then I spent the next 1.5 to 2 years learning how to maintain that new weight and make it a sustainable lifestyle change versus somebody who spends 2 years losing it slow and steady, but they kind of integrate those lifestyle changes along the way. Don't quote me on that. That's just from my experience. What I found is you can lose the weight quickly, but it's still going to be a long-term process, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I actually, whoever I was responding to earlier, like when I was telling you about the 200 pounds and take 2 years,
Yeah.
I basically said the same thing. You have to account for the mental adjustment that has to happen, that coincides with the physical adjustment, especially for women. I've noticed men too for sure, but we have a lot of women in our group, so
Yeah.
I get a lot of feedback and data, and they express that because they have been a certain way for so long, whether it's dealing with obesity or whatever, and then thinking about their self-esteem and how they view themselves, they start losing this weight, and then they start to get attention from men, and
Yeah.
then sometimes that could be a good thing, sometimes it feels awkward, but there's an adjustment that has to happen, and that's just one example of it, because it everyone's going to have their own experience with it, but and then of course the biggest thing is just the maintenance, because if you're losing the weight fast, which means that you're doing a tremendous amount of fasting,
Mhm.
with very little eating, or when you eat, maybe your prescription eating, which is kind of how I look at it, like if you're using a Dr. Sebi food guide, that is a prescription for eating when you have disease in the body.
Yeah.
That's probably not going to be how you're going to live the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of people try to do that, and I think that it's not very well explained, that Dr. Sebi didn't mean that food guide to be like how you should just eat forever. It's a food guide.
Yeah.
It's like these are some guidelines for how you can eat healthy while you're healing. And then you have to create some balance in your life.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I like so obviously I watch a lot of other YouTubers and other, weight loss diet proponents, and Dr. Ken Berry is actually one of my favorites simply because he gives a lot of like down to earth real advice, and one of the things that he and his wife are always saying is when it comes to you and your own health, it's n equals 1. Like the sample size is 1. It's you. What
mm,
works, like the types of foods that I eat might not work for you. Like if I love sweet potatoes, which I do, but funny thing is I never liked sweet potatoes before I changed my health.
really,
But if you hate sweet potatoes, like what's the point of me prescribing sweet potatoes to you? You ain't gonna eat them. Like I'm not gonna eat beets. I try them every couple of years, but every time they still taste like dirt. So I don't include them in my diet, right?
yeah, yeah,
Because it's n equals 1. Like
yeah.
there's good general guidelines that we all can adhere to, but when it comes to exactly what's going to work for you, you got to test it out for yourself.
hmm So I actually like beets, and I don't know I don't know if you remember. I believe this was from what was that? Doug? You
Yeah.
remember that
Yeah,
cartoon?
Nickelodeon.
Nickelodeon. I think Doug or someone in that, I think they hated beets.
Yeah.
And so from that cartoon, I was like, I don't like beets.
Yeah. I
I
test it
just
out, man, but I still every time I test it out like once per year or once every 2 years, and every time I still don't like them.
yeah. Well, I had a training, an essential oils training that we did a couple years ago, and those who were hosting us, they made roasted beets, and I think they just did some sea salt and some pepper, simple stuff. It was absolutely delicious.
Yeah.
Now I do know what you're talking about as far as the dirt taste,
Yeah.
and I can't tell you if I don't remember if it had that dirt taste or not, but I've
Yeah.
tasted it before.
Yeah.
But that dirt taste doesn't bother me like
Yeah.
that. But I do wonder if, because I started a garden a couple years ago,
Mhm.
and well, I guess technically last year, and I've definitely got beets. I ordered beets,
Yeah.
so I'm curious to see if they taste different, like growing them in my own garden, and
Yeah, that's a
you
good
know what I
point.
mean. I'll let you know though.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I should, put a caveat. It's not like they like make me ill or make me sick. It's just I'm not going out of my way to eat them. I will say too, golden beets I found to be more palatable than the red ones. The red ones, for some reason, they just taste like straight dirt to me.
So golden beets are what are they? Just like the potato, Yukon gold colored
No,
potatoes?
they're actually beets, but they're like a dark yellow instead of the red color.
Hmm. Okay. So maybe the color has something to do with the flavor. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, chemical or mineral making it that color. And
Yeah.
but man, I don't know, like beets and there's like a beet. I want to say it's maybe beet and carrot juice. It sounds trifling, but like I'm all for it now. I'm like
Sounds trifling.
but I did want to say that I agree with you. Like, what we attempt to convey to people, because people sometimes get upset with us with our challenges and with our content because we won't tell you exactly what to do,
Yeah.
you know? And our goal is not to tell you exactly what to do. I'm not your father.
Yeah.
My goal is to be a conduit of information and really give you, I'm going to narrow the information down to like a couple different choices and really let you take those options. Like what makes the most sense for you, because it's just like you said, man, those small nuances. I've had people not want to do a protocol that I put together because of one thing in there that I said,
Yeah.
and they were like, "Nah, I can't do that." So I'm just not going to do the whole thing. And it's like there's always another way.
Yeah.
My mom's favorite saying growing up, "There's more than one way to skin a cat." Like she
Yeah.
literally loved that saying. And it's true. There's 100 different ways to solve the same problem.
Mhm.
So you guys want to make sure that you're reframe, and this is what we've been talking about this week as far as like obstacles and stuff. Like for every problem there is a solution. You
Mm.
have to know that.
Yeah.
Like there is no problem that exists where there isn't a solution. So understanding that and really embodying that principle, you look differently. You look, okay, I don't like this. Is there another way? Is there another way to approach it? And oftentimes it's just asking that question.
Yeah.
Like just ask.
And not giving up, right? Like, I mentioned that I was in that last long-term treatment program when I finally got sober. That wasn't my first time I ever got sober or tried to quit. I'd been to more rehabs than I can even count, and
Mm,
all of those relapses and all of those failures, right, I'll say failures with quotation marks,
right.
they were just learning opportunities. I learned a lot of things that didn't work for me until eventually I found something that did work for me because I
Mm,
didn't give up.
yeah. Hey, get those likes up, people. Let's get these likes up. Let's share this content out. Feel free to share it on your platform, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you want, because this is the type of conversation that really people really need to see. I think that being able to bring somebody on who has been through the mud
Mhm.
and really kind of dissect like what their experience has been, it's invaluable. Because what I have noticed, and this is why I do so many interviews, what I've noticed is people want someone who is relatable to them. They want to see someone like them make it, because people think if that person can make it, that
Mhm.
person who's just like me, if they could do it, I could do it.
Yeah.
Right? So, there's always, and then by the way, some of you all think your story's not important, what you've achieved is not important, or there might be a small nuance of your story that wasn't a big deal for you, but it's like everything for somebody else.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's fair for you to have an experience, whether it's learning about the AHA group and just loving that space. It's not fair to like keep that to yourself. You know, when I learned all this information, I felt a deep desire to share it. Like, and I feel like that's a human thing. I don't feel like that's a Chris thing. I think that when you have good information or your life has been changed by something, you naturally want to share it. But I think the programming, like what we've been taught, is you're a lone wolf. Because
Yeah.
like Justin, even if you look at like how our families interact nowadays. Now, if you guys are in New York, this probably won't apply. But in a traditional family, let's say in the Midwest, when a child is born, we're talking infant babies, within weeks. I mean, as soon as a parent can, they are putting a baby in their own room by themselves. There's even a term and a treatment for it where you're basically trying to get the children to not be so attached, to not be so clingy, and then
Mhm.
also like help them with their sleep schedule. So they'll put them in like a room by themselves and let them cry themselves to sleep
Yeah.
until the baby gets used to that. And that's like a normal thing. And we teach that.
Yeah.
That is so backwards to
Yeah.
what nature shows us. Like if you look at other animals and how they interact with their babies, like the mothers are sleeping with the babies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's an energetic transfer that happens between the mother or the dad and the baby that makes them feel safe. Like that's important. And like we do things so backwards. But as we get older, that same concept continues.
Oh, yeah.
So we will send our 18-year-old out in the world underdeveloped because we let school teach them mostly. So we're
Yeah.
not teaching them any life skills.
Yeah.
And they're out on their own making mistakes. And it's like, yeah, you can't fly, but you got to get out the nest regardless.
Yeah.
So if you hit the ground and go splat, that's on you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Gotta learn it the hard way.
Yeah. I think that family, when we look at like communities, not even that long ago, we're just talking like 30, 40 years ago, where families were more community and you never had to worry about falling flat on your face, because even if your particular nuclear family couldn't support you, there was the community that was your extended family that would support you, you know? And I think we need to get more back to that. Like, it needs to be more about community supporting each other and just taking care of each other.
Yeah. Well, that's why I really love, like I said at the beginning here, I really love the community that you've built up here with your brand and your channel. I think that's where so many people are benefiting. You know, when I finally did get out of drug addiction, I didn't do it on my own. I literally, like, people ask me, how did you escape it? And it was like, I didn't, right? Like, I had an army of people, literally hordes of people that
Mm.
helped me get out of that. And you talked about being underdeveloped at 18 years old. Dude, I was underdeveloped until I was 30, right? Because I had done drugs from the age of 20 to 30.
Right.
That's a good question. Bionic Prince asked, does fasting help with visceral fat? What about when people get older and magically gain weight? Will fasting help? Chris, I know you can take that one.
Yeah, I was actually reading it as you
Yeah.
were talking. I was
Yeah.
gonna bring it up and kick the ball to you, but
Yeah, that's funny. We both punt.
yeah, I mean, absolutely, absolutely. Look, I have a theory. I always have theories about everything. So I believe that we were taught that aging is something that happens due to how many years you've been on this earth, and it's inevitable that we're going to get weaker with time, and we're going to be more susceptible with time. Now, once again, I like to look at nature. So what do you see with the little sapling, right? You plant a little seed, the little whatever tree, oak tree turns to a sapling. It's weak, it's flimsy, it's an infant. A cat could come and tear the tree down, right? But then after 200 years, it's a massive oak tree that's grown, 100-fold, and it with the most modern technology and tools, it takes hours. And even still, after you cut the tree down, trying to get the stump out of the ground
Yeah.
is like impossible,
Yeah.
right? So nature shows us that as you get older and you develop, you become more wise, you become stronger, you become more established. But why is it with the humans, we're seeing the reverse? We literally see people go from infancy to infancy. As you
Yeah.
get older, you revert back to a baby,
Yeah.
right? And so it is a disease. It's the disease of old age. I've put out content talking about this. And what fasting helps to do is revitalize your body, your immune system, your cells. You can literally reverse the what do they call it? Your metabolic age with
Yeah. Your
fasting.
telomeres. Yeah.
Right. And it's crazy with science because you get science in little snippets, little bite-sized pieces of science, especially when you're like following the journals and the research, and you think, okay, this is what it is right now. This is the best information we have, and this is what it is. And you start living your life based on that little information, and it's wrong.
Yeah.
Right. And so we see these outcomes where people are, in my opinion, people are dying more soon, and their quality of life is decreasing in modern time.
Yeah.
That's what I see.
Yeah.
But yeah, visceral fat is a major problem,
Yeah.
and fasting is amazing at obliterating visceral fat.
Yeah.
Because like fasting is a holistic wellness technique, and so what I notice sometimes when you'll meet somebody who's very small, they might be, let's say it's a female, she's 5'8", 130 pounds or whatever, 135 pounds. So from the outside, she looks pretty good, maybe dress size 4, okay, curves, everything's in the right space, but then she has diabetes. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yep.
So fasting will help to target those issues and alleviate whatever's going on, whether it's constipation or, just an abundance of toxicity in the system. I think it's also important to focus on not just fasting, but, I like to promote cleansing the liver,
Yeah.
making sure that your liver is functioning, not just for the elimination purposes, but also for the absorption. So when we look to supplement, we're trying to supplement and get our body back in order. a lot of times we're peeing these supplements out, the body's not absorbing them. By revitalizing the liver, you can increase your absorption so that you are eliminating well and you're absorbing well, which it's gonna help no matter what age you are.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and just to add to that, and two, like, do remember that, as I already stated, there's individual differences, right? N equals 1. So yeah, there could be genetic things going on, but I think when it comes to that, when you get to the age where you magically start gaining weight, in my experience, my own personal experience, I was way more unhealthy at the age of 26 than I am now, which, like, I'm 41 years old. Again, N equals 1. Most people tell me I don't look anywhere close to 41, right? But I think what happens for a lot of people is it's the accruing of the diet and how we're treating our bodies over time, which is why I was so unhealthy and I felt it at 26 years old. But, now after close to a decade of doing, I like how you put it, Chris, doing the right thing more often than doing the wrong thing.
Mhm.
I look and feel way younger, and it's crazy too, like, I'll get my blood work done, my testosterone, my doctor told me this at one point, it's like, "Your testosterone's higher than my 18-year-old son's," right? So, I do think that is fasting gonna be a cure-all? Will it fix everything? No, not necessarily, but it certainly ain't gonna hurt anything, you know?
Hence the diabolical article written from the AHA about
Yeah, it's so
fasting.
weird, man, that stuff is so strange to me.
I think that speaks to, and once again, I don't want to keep repeating this. It's just so valid though. But like this is why I don't really place a lot of energy into the journals and the
Yep.
research and the stuff, because it's like like if you're not researching the research, meaning you have to qualify the research that you're getting from these sources. You can't just assume that someone else is qualifying it, and you might have a different standard than the people that are qualifying it, whatever those people might be, whether it's peers or journals or whatever.
Yeah,
But what I learned from, because I started off looking at journals and this research, and
same.
because I wanted to be well balanced,
Yep.
and I just got disgusted. I
Yeah.
got disgusted. Like there was so much fraudulent activity there. Man, I got roasted on a recent video
Don't you love
because
when that happens? You're like, I'm out here trying to help people, and I'm literally just doing the best that I can, and somebody's gonna rip into me for my voice, right?
yeah, I mean, people are savages, especially on the internet.
Yeah. Oh,
They're
yeah,
the
because 'cause they're
gangsters.
hidden.
You're hidden. But they're mad at me because I was talking about cells in a way that is not what you're taught in school. It's not what you're taught in, biology class or whatever the case is. I'm talking about cells in a manner that I'm starting to learn and understand the human cells from my observations and just picking up pieces of information. And people just outright reject it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm all kinds of idiot and dumb
Mhm.
and you know
Well, because it doesn't fit what they were taught, right? Like, I get that stuff all the time when it comes to I think, recently on I mentioned Jerome, like, a video I did with Jerome, somebody jumped on there and said, "Guys, it has nothing to do with fasting. Fasting just puts you in a calorie deficit." I'm like, "Okay, let's assume that is true. What was the point of that comment? Does it help anybody?" It's like, "No, you just want to appear smart." It's like,
right.
if it is just a calorie deficit, most people find focusing on the clock versus focusing on the calories easier. So what does
Mm,
it matter? You know?
mhm.
Yeah, it drives me nuts. Yeah, those are
It's
the joys of YouTube.
yeah, I mean that it comes along with the territory. Um Justin, man, this has been fun, man. This
Yeah.
was easy.
Yeah.
We didn't even get to any of our questions or anything that we had kind of set aside, which I figured was going to happen.
Yeah.
It's been a joy and a pleasure interacting with the community. I love doing this. If next time maybe we do it, we'll see if we can set a little later, because I know people probably sell at work and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But we do one a little later and maybe get a couple hundred people in here.
Let's
But
do it.
shout out to y'all who've been in here keeping the chat live. I mean, it's been incredible. I do want to give you an opportunity to, I don't know if you got your the link for your channel pulled up or anything. We can drop it in the chat and just let people know what it is you do on your channel.
Yeah, I'll grab it here while I'm talking, but full disclosure, I am terrible at multitasking. Here we
Do
go.
you want me to keep? I can keep talking if you
I
need me
got it.
to.
I gotta join the
Okay.
chat here. But yes, keep talking while I join the chat. I'll drop my link.
Okay. Cool. So, yeah, I see. You know, they're in the chat talking about verified research. You have to look who's funding those researches. So, what kind of started me on this idea of researching the research was the big sugar and big tobacco. If you guys remember in the 90s, there was a lot of controversy around the studies that they were putting out because what we're seeing in real time is pregnant women having birth defects from smoking cigarettes. And you know, they put the Surgeon General warning on there, but then big tobacco was putting out science that was disputing what our observable reality. And so what I started to realize is with enough money and enough funding and enough backdoor whatever, you can make it seem like whatever you want to be the outcome can be the outcome. Like science, you know, there's a saying, men lie, women lie, but numbers don't lie. I'm sorry to tell y'all, that statement is propaganda. There's a lot of statements, quotes, things that we say. We don't think about it. We just repeat it. It sounds good. Do you all know that Rockefeller literally would come up with quotes and embed them into our society via different outlets and get us to repeat these quotes that were damaging? Like, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Words are some of the most damaging things. As a matter of fact, I would actually contend words are more damaging than getting hit with a rock. Because you get hit with a rock, okay, it hurts in the moment, cracks open, you bleeding, but then that wound will heal and to the point where you could never even see that wound anymore. But if someone hurts you psychologically or mentally, that can stay with you for your entire life. And then it can burrow into your subconscious where you don't even know where it is, and it could just impact you in ways that you don't even understand. So we got to be careful about stuff like that. Justin,
Yeah, I dropped it in the comments, just
okay.
not in this chat here.
Okay.
For some reason, I can't get into that. But yeah, just one of my favorite things to do with research. This is a lot of the videos that I do on my channel, which if you're live right now and you're in the comments and you're wondering where it is, if you can't get the comments off channel, it's just Justin Dorff on YouTube. One of my favorite things to do is look at the primary author of a study and then type into Google that author's name and conflicts of interest. Because, you know, as you were talking about, I don't, I read the research, right? But usually I'm reading it because I'm looking for the underlying motives because there are hardly any research articles anymore that they're not biased, you know, whether it's coming from big pharma or big food. And it happens with everything, like literally with everything. Like there'll be a study be like veganism kills you and it's, you know, funded by big beef. Or then the next one will come out, carnivore diet kills you, it leads to heart attacks and it's funded by agriculture, right? Like I always search the primary author and conflicts of interest.
That's good, man. That's really good information. And once again, listen, it's important to take it all in, put it through your filter, like literally eat the meat, spit out the bone. So I don't reject, but through that process I learned a lot. So it was I think you guys should still go through that process.
Yeah.
But some of the more supernatural things in our reality that have actually been tested, experimented on, and proven with modern science techniques, you won't find it because there's a big brother that controls what information we're allowed. Like there's a young man, I don't know where he's from, but I believe his Instagram is Nature Jab.
Nature
Okay,
chat.
Nature Jabs, young guy, and essentially he created a reactor using parts from a microwave to turn plastic into usable oil. Like he's basically reverting it back to its natural state, and then he could turn it into natural gas, gasoline for a car, diesel, whatever you want. It's insane.
Yeah.
Now that technique is not new. That's a well-known technique, but nobody messes with it because in the past it hasn't been efficient. his machine is actually efficient, where you can put, you get more out than you put in. So
Yeah.
now it's a viable option, and he's actually been looking to get funding to help build it. And I'm like, man, I really wish I was where I want to be so that
Yeah.
I could just drop $1 million on him,
Yeah.
because
Yeah, that'd be
that
sweet.
that is the type of research we need. Like, imagine having a reactor out back. So when you get all this trash plastic, you
Real
just put it in there
recycling.
and then you put it in your gas tank.
Yeah.
Like, incredible
That's real recycling right there.
for sure.
And yeah,
So,
U-Haul for sure. Research funding, yeah.
mhm,
Who's funding it? That's what I always ask.
yep. Who's funding it? That's one of the reasons why I want to start a research facility. I mean, I'm going to do it
Yeah.
because I know me and I know my agenda. Everybody has an agenda. It's just really about, is your agenda in alignment with their agenda? You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah. That's
'Cause-
the truth right there.
yeah. But Justin, I know you got things to do today. I don't want to keep you too long.
Yeah, let's
Um,
do this again though, for real. Let's do it like later in an evening sometime. I'd be totally down to do that.
we should probably do AHA after dark, man. That's like,
Yeah, I could do it.
yeah, that's my thing, man. We talk about things AHA after dark.
Oh yeah.
Matthew Griffin. He loves AHA after dark. So,
That's when we start talking about the conspiracy theory stuff.
oh yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Oh, let's do that. Yeah. Um. All right. Well, listen. Thank you all for watching. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that like button before we rock out. Share this video out, guys. I want to encourage you all to come and Matt says, someone say AHA after dark. I want to encourage you guys to come and join us. The challenge, the 5-2 fasting blitz, is going to start on Sunday. That's going to be our introductory day. You guys do not need to prep or anything. We are going to prep within the challenge, so you can come as you are. We'll do a week of prep. We're going to do 2 weeks of fasting, so it's a 3-week challenge. It's $71 to join. You're going to get the core content, the PDF guide. You're going to get the live stream interactions. And as a cherry on top, we've added 9 of our accountability calls for free in this challenge. We've never done that before. So come and get that, y'all. Links in the chat. All right, Justin, any last words?
Nah, thanks, Chris. This has been fun.
Absolutely. Okay, well, we'll see you guys next time. And as always, the application of knowledge is power. Peace.